got obviously Brandon here, and we've got Harry from Martee.ai. He's the CEO. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role and the company and everything like that?
Yeah, so Martee.ai is a demand forecasting platform for fresh food to go products. I'm founder and CEO. I have a co-founder called Lucy. We've got a pretty interesting journey. So we actually came out of the Founders Factory and Nesta Mission Studio. Founders Factory, big venture builder, Nesta, the UK government's innovation arm for social change.
And how did you get into that?
So my last business was called Play-to-Weigh, and kind of when I kind of wrapped things up with that, just looking for the next opportunity, and just found this opportunity. They were looking for a founder CEO to take forward this idea.
Yeah. And was it an idea that they put together?
Yes. So basically, one of Nesta's core missions is to reduce obesity by half by 2030 in the UK. And they were working with Founders Factory to explore different businesses that one could go and have a massive impact, but two could go and be a very successful commercial business. The initial concept was to scale a network of unattended micro stores of healthy F&B brands, so effectively an evolution of a vending machine, a smart fridge, which was stocked with fresh food to go items like you would see in Fratellezza and Wasabi. So we basically built a retail business. We scaled.
And how much of the idea do they give you, or is it just a very?
It was basically like a slide deck of 10 slides, being like they've done 2 months of research of exploring different market trends and what's working and what's not, and especially in Europe and US, this kind of unattended retail sector was growing with fresh food. Because it allows a way to basically deliver and make fresher food more accessible without having high traffic different spaces, if that makes sense. We started that, scaled to quite a few sites across London, workspaces and hospitals, but got to a point where it was hard to make it work profitably because of the balance between availability and waste, which is a big problem across basically the food sector. You stock too many items, specifically with fresh food. There's a lot of waste. If you don't, then everything's out of stock and there's bad availability. That's why you see chocolate bars and snacks and longer life products pretty much filling up streets, unless you're in high traffic different places. So effectively, so we built this retail business, and then to make it work profitably, because of access to Founders Factory's data science team, we basically built this proof of concept, this algorithm. So
before we go into that, I think the world of incubators, and is Founders Factory classified as an incubator?
Yeah, well, they've got their accelerator, but yeah, it's an incubator, venture builder.
So a venture builder. So what is a venture builder for everyone that doesn't really know what it is?
Yeah, so effectively you get the support, resource and funding to basically turn an idea into reality.
And when you say resource, so you mentioned that they had a data science team that you
so we've got access to, so we work very closely with their head of data science.
So does that mean that they actually come on board your project and code?
So she did, so not full time, but you get access to her and she helped develop the proof of concept.
Is it a certain amount of hours or?
It's less formal than that. It's like we get a couple of kind of meetings with her, but then set a week and then set a set project of, okay, here's data. Like our first proof of concept was my iPad and an iZettle in Founders Factory offices with a snack bar, and we captured data, and then she used that, plugged that in and started developing this algorithm, and we had a proof of concept and output of what it looked like. So you get access to their resources. Data science was one of them. They've got a legal team, they've got an accountancy team, they've got a growth team, and basically got access to all of them. And then you kind of get what they call a kind of venture builder that supports you as well. Like especially when I went in for 3 months, it was me on my own, basically with the slide deck, and I just conducted all this lot of research to understand, okay, where do we launch these machines, what food do we stock, what technology we use. We weren't going to build our own smart fridge or vending machines, so we're looking at different solutions. But the venture builder is kind of like a person that you actually get full time next to you to work that through, and then you can kind of pick and choose the different resource They also have a product team as well. It was interesting because historically, well, Founders Factory is very much more focused on technology companies. So that venture builder would probably be someone that helped you create like an MVP app using like a no-code tool. For us, we basically got more funding to basically buy more vending machines.
And do you have to pay their resources with the funding that you get, or is that all included?
So the way it works with Founders Factory is you get given, right at the start, you're given 100 grand, and you're meant to get 50 grand in cash and 50 grand on resource. You then go through a 6-month, what they call mission studio period, and at the end of the 6 months, you basically go to IC, investment committee, and then show the work you've done, progress. If you hit certain milestones, you get another 200 grand cash, and at that point, you incorporate a company that goes into it.
And do the resources act like staff for you, or do they give you input and sort of push back on ideas?
Oh, very much all push back and a good sounding ground. So you kind of get some people that are doers, but then more the venture builder and the mission directors actually kind of say, no, we like that idea, and challenge you and all that kind of stuff. But for us, it was very different. We actually got, I think it was about 95k of it in cash, because it was less about having a resource that was full time. It was more about, let's get one of these smart fridges live and to buy the smart fridge.
Exactly.
And set it all up.
It's capital intensive like early on.
Yeah, so we managed to get that money, and then about a month before we went to IC, we did a deal with Toast, which the big kind of salad chain in London, to basically buy 10 of their smart fridges, which kind of accelerated our growth. And we did a deal where we basically got them for absolutely nothing. It was mad.
Well, and then they were closing down or something? Or?
So they basically launched these smart fridges into NHS hospitals at the start of COVID, and then they were filling them. And some months they made money and some months they lost, and they were just filling them. So for them, they had these smart fridges, and it was like up and down. So for us, we came along with our focus is on making it work operationally. So the deal was, they actually, rather than giving them cash, we gave them like a tiny piece of equity that was part of the spin-off round after IC. So we got all the smart fridges, we owned all the smart fridges, they carried on the stock in the fridge, and we basically bought the stock of them each week at cost and sold them. So it was a deal that worked for both people, which was really good. Accelerated our growth at that stage to 10 sites. We got the extra 200 grand cash.
And that's in NHS hospitals?
Yeah, they're still there. They're still there. So we've got 11 of them now. But as I'll come on to in a minute, that's not our business at all. We've completely pivoted.
Which is the whole data science side of stuff.
Yeah, so we basically got to 11 sites, tossed the filling these fridges up with fresh food, and then we had a kind of snack range that we were procuring from wholesalers, had this whole kind of retail business operating, doing about 15k monthly revenue, so decent amount of time in the business. But then obviously there was the balance between availability and waste was a problem. So that's where we kind of got the proof of concept, this algorithm that predicted demand. 70% of it uses transactional data from the sales, and then we bring different data points in, like the weather, tube strikes, different bits to basically come up with a picture of what future demand looks like.
Where do you get that other data from?
Different data libraries. So we'll kind of get that from different data libraries. We might gather that ourselves in a different database. So we kind of build that picture up. Within 2 months of basically having this demand forecast, we went from negative to positive and became profitable.
Nice.
So it was a point where it was a bit of an aha moment. This is cool. This works. And then we had a decision. We were like, okay, this is cool. We can go and scale this side of the business. Obviously, it's very capital intensive to sell vending machines. Like spending some of my weekends going to fix these machines and all that kind of stuff. Or we can focus on the software. And I think the first point at that point was doing a bit of research. We went and spoke to 70 plus different businesses. We spoke to Pret, Itsu, Avocado, all these kind of specifically focused on pre-packaged food to go items that are on the shelf that you would see, stuff you would see in the Tesco's field deal, stuff you would see in Itsu. And pretty much figured out that the way they understand what goes on the shelf is there's a lack of sophistication. There's 2 ways. There's the top-down approach where the HQ would effectively say, here, this is what you should stock, and send the numbers into the store, but this is the on-the-ground trends. Or a store manager that effectively is responsible to do a mathematical equation to figure out what goes on the shelf, picks the numbers, and it's really much like a finger in the air.
And that's how someone like Pret does it at the moment?
Yeah, there's two different ways they would do it, top down or bottom up. And look, a store manager that's been there for 20 years might have a good idea of what to do, but things change on a constant basis, and that's not very scalable at all.
Yeah.
So there was an opportunity there. So it's like, okay, this is interesting. There's an opportunity there, and we also at the same time we knew some of the bigger players in retail, like Tesco's, had the best in class data science team, and they've been doing a lot of this forecasting for ages. But data science resource cost a lot of money to do. So effectively, we decided in January of this year to pivot, to wrap our demand forecasting tech that we built into a B2B SaaS product to license out to these different food-to-go businesses to effectively lower the barriers of entry to do advanced demand forecasting for these businesses.
And what's the market like that in the UK? Or
So initially we've been focusing on food-to-go players. So Avocado, which is a food-to-go store, Mark Lee, the founder, is an investor advisor in our business. So they were kind of our proof of concept past Martee's, doing it for our own stores, if that makes sense, Martee's stores. But then as we opened our pre-seed round, we got introduced to an investor who's an angel investor in our business now, who his fund invested in this French company called Kumo. Kumo it's like a store-in-store within French supermarkets, a bit like Sushi Daily, but rather than making the sushi on site, they've got 3 production hubs around France. They make all the sushi in a centralised location, and then they deliver it to the store. They have their own refrigerator stores, so it's like a concession. They'll give a commission to the supermarket, so it's not part of the supermarket supply chain, so they're responsible for their own forecasting. So we got introduced to them, and we've been working for them for about 2-3 months, and I literally got back from Paris yesterday, and we signed a big pilot agreement with them to basically launch our product within their stores. And they're across 450 supermarkets in France. So yeah, it's been pretty big and whirlwind. So we've kind of got 2 market segments now. Now food to go stores, in London, that can scale out, that have their own stores and the shelves. Imagine the Pret fridge, right?
And
then store in store.
What do you find is your like differentiating factor between the models or prediction models that you can produce and what other people can produce? Like, what is it that sets you apart? Is it that no one else is doing it in the industry? Is it?
So I think we've got, the first thing is our niche. So we're specifically focusing on these pre-packaged food-to-go items rather than, let's say, ingredients in big retail. So there's more of a need, because these items are made as a package and put on the shelf and they're sold within a day or 2. There's a more need to get that right.
And what's the secret to finding out? Because in my head, the secret is just finding what data sets.
So it's
to input into the
there's 2
forecast.
parts. There's finding the data sets, and 60-70% of that, I think I said before, is the sales data that you get. But then it's understanding what you do with that and the different time series analysis forecasting that you do for that. And
you almost need to build models that you chuck a bunch of like the data that I would think would be most like key is data that changes every day, stuff like weather.
Yeah, so weather's a big factor, but
days of the week.
But there's loads that you can do. Yes, days of the week is with time. So there's a thing called time series analysis, and I'm not going to give this justice, right? So if I think my data scientists know 100% what they're doing, I know probably about 30% what they do, right? But I picked a lot of it up. So time series analysis essentially is looking at time series trends. One of them is day of the week. Another one could be the last 3 days. Another one could be last month, last year. And it's understanding the right mix of applying AI and machine learning to that data set, and then bringing in different data sets like the weather. There's another layer on top of that. There's other layer like environmental or event, different things like if tube strike happens and stuff like that. And it's mapping that to the different environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we've just hired someone that's been doing the time series, the demand forecasting of Tesco for 16 years. So I always say that if I could get the best person in the world that knew how to do a demand forecasting, PhD, whatever, they wouldn't have the knowledge that the guy we just hired has of doing it for Tesco for 16 years, because he's working on that specific user case. So,
however, someone that is doing a PhD or something now knows the latest technologies which they don't know.
they know the latest technologies, but then they might not know how to apply that in the commercial context.
Okay.
So there's a way off between the two.
So let's discuss this. So I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting topic, like as, I don't know, a founder to a founder conversation point. Hiring someone experienced as opposed to hiring someone inexperienced.
Yeah.
What's your... Because I could argue for both sides. I obviously don't know the ins and outs of who this guy is and what he does and his credentials. He sounds great, and it's always great to have great people on board.
Yeah.
Like in our business, we have some very, very experienced people on board, but we've also got some people straight out of uni that have never worked commercially, and both people are equally important in the business and play huge roles.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you like?
I think there's a balance, right? I think, and a different business, a different business is a different use case, right? And I can't speak for your business, but for Martee's, it's not just about knowing how to do demand forecasting in the best way it's ever done, or the best way it's done now, or will be done in the future, and using the latest trends. It's also about knowing how it's used in the context and the environment, because you're specifically forecasting for a particular type of product in a particular type of setting with a particular type of human behaviour, and knowing that. And with data science, from what I'm told and from the thing, it's always about doing a type of model, testing out how does it work, analysing it, and then trying. It's always about testing and learning. And that person with the commercial context has done that testing and learning for that same use case over and over again, whereas maybe someone that is younger, that's come with a PhD in that specific thing, will know how to use latest technologies, but they're going to be starting from zero in terms of understanding how it works, that particular use case. That's for data science. But then if you look at software engineering, when you know how to write code, it's different when you're building a platform, because there's a way to build a platform. Whereas with data science, it could go so many different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but ultimately data science is just maths.
Yeah.
And the ways in which we can compute the maths of data science is completely different today than what it was 18 months ago.
Yeah.
Miles different.
Yeah, 100%.
So the industry knowledge will always be out there, but I think generally it's more important, like when you're discussing skills like this that are taught, as opposed to sort of knowing things that you pick up from experience, which are more like soft skills and soft knowledge.
Yeah.
I think it's more important to have fresher minds on technology now.
Yeah.
Than experienced minds.
Yeah. I suppose, yeah.
I'm pivoting slightly, but I think in a tech team it's far more important. There's also the argument of, if you have someone that's been doing a job for ages, they're very used to the certain ways in which they work.
Yeah. And I think it goes both ways, right? So if I take the guy from the Tesco's that we've got, right now, we need to, which we will, deliver for this big French client, right? He's been doing it for Tesco's 50 years, so he can easily come in and do that, and the job's done, basically built on what we've already built. When we want to expand out and do more different things other than what he's done from Tesco's to our data set and our clients, and evolve the product even further, then I completely agree. You want to get people in and learning the latest technologies, but that's not to say that he's not still learning and looking into the latest technologies for that as well.
Georgina, what else is on the agenda to discuss?
I texted this to Brandon the other day. I thought it would be interesting to talk about, but if someone had applied to your company and it was obvious that they'd used ChatGPT on their application, how would you feel about that? As like both AI companies, you love AI.
You can easily tell, like I think you see on the thing.
When you sent me that text this morning, I knew it was.
the person, when you look at like the personal statement, whatever you want to call it on Otter at the top, you can easily see it. Like
I personally don't care.
It depends. Like if they just, you can tell if someone's used prompts or not. I think Like if it's just like it sounds like a robot, or it sounds like
Do
natural.
you read the CV?
Skim it.
Yeah, so
I skim it, and then I normally just click the LinkedIn button and then
Yeah, so-
LinkedIn and go through that.
LinkedIn is a CV.
But it's funny you asked that because it wasn't me, but one of our head of data science interviewed someone, and he was like, "Why is that guy? Why does he keep looking down?" And he basically figured out that every question he asked, he was typing it into ChatGPT,
Oh god.
and then responding back
On,
And then-
on
on an interview, and then doing it, and I was like, "That's a bit of come
The
on."
audacity.
Yeah, in one way, I'm like, yeah, but I think,
Fair play.
You
yeah,
can't talk, like.
Yeah.
exactly. So.
Yeah, I think it's good, like, because I wouldn't waste time writing an introduction. Like I just
No.
put it to GPT.
Yeah.
But then like companies with older CEOs maybe would think differently.
Oh yeah, because people don't get it. People think that.
So I think the word AI generally scares people. So on
Yeah.
Plander's website,
Yeah.
Plander is a very, very heavy AI business.
Yeah.
We do not have the word AI at all on the website.
You're not okay.
Right. Because we think that the people that we're dealing with, which are like companies that have been in the industry for years, that aren't as familiar with these concepts as we are perhaps, there's a general perception that AI is a capability or a technology that makes its own mind up, whereas it really doesn't. It's just data science on steroids, so it could just pump through numbers way quicker than other things or other methods.
Yeah.
So we're not necessarily doing anything generative, but I think there's a misconception that if you use the word AI, it's a computer making its own mind up that carries a degree of risk,
Yeah.
like creating images or creating cartoons or like AI pictures or whatever.
Mm.
And that's what people think that AI is, whereas it's really just an insanely efficient way of making loads of computations very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think it's an extent. It's going to become more of an extension to everyone's lives. I think people that I suppose that use ChatGPT, I suppose we both use ChatGPT now, are doing it because it speeds up things, right? Like helping write an email a lot quicker, right? Or researching something or whatever, of doing a formula or sum or whatever. There's a lot of people using it for code right now, right? But there's a lot of people that, as you said, don't trust it, right? And
It's because that's all generative stuff.
yeah,
Which is like writing an email, writing code, writing a story. All of these things there's a very high chance that it will contain an error. Not necessarily a spelling error, but or a grammar error, but it will say something that it shouldn't say, or perhaps something might be a little bit off. Whereas like when you're actually building models that rely on data, as opposed we use a hell of a lot of textual data, but we're like classifying a lot of data and summarizing a lot of stuff. So the degree of accuracy is, and we're also dealing with numbers.
So it's statistics, isn't it?
It's just heavy statistics. So it is insanely accurate to the point where it's never really wrong, the statistics that we do, because all it is stats. But because people think that it makes their mind up, people think that it's wrong. So that's why we just call them models and stuff like that.
It's a misconception of generative learning.
It's a massive misconception.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because of how big ChatGPT has got.
You could say the GPT models are great, and you could plug into a GPT model or any other model that you build or wherever you get this model from. 10 terabytes of data, in theory, it will take you a while, like a little bit of engineering, but in theory you could plug in 10 terabytes of usage data from your machines and go build a trend that does X, Y, and Z, and it will do it in a few hours.
Yeah.
If you were to go back 5 years ago and you were to do that based on stats only, you'd need a team of 15 people and it would take them months. That's what AI is. It's these models' capability to do things really fast.
Yeah.
So it's still like very accurate, or it's still stats.
Fast and do things. It can do things a lot quicker, but then over a period of time, because it's just maths and stats, it's going to be more accurate and there's less room for errors for then if a human brain did it.
Yeah, exactly.
So for example, we apply it to Martee's, right? Even if it's an analyst behind a spreadsheet doing the numbers, or a store manager doing it, there's still, as well as looking at the numbers, there's still scope for a human brain to make a gut instinct on something.
Yeah.
Now that instinct can be good, but can be bad.
Yeah, human error is the number one sort of erroring rate or reason for error
Yeah.
in anything to do with that.
100%. And that's what we say to our clients, like, if you compare us over a couple of months period of time, compared to a human, it's going to be better.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because it's just pure maths of how it's going to work.
What's the best moment you've had in your career to date?
Oh, that's a very good question.
How old is Martee.ai?
Martee is... So we started last March, so...
Okay.
18 months?
Yeah, about 18 months. But we basically restarted the company in January, right?
Yeah.
So we pivoted. But it's mad. The best moment, I suppose, in my career. It's weird. I think it was the other day when we were... So it was the first time, like, the whole team of 7 were together in an office. We're discussing off, like, the roadmap and how we want to deliver and with, like, there's a big project, this kind of super model that we're building. Not into the specifics, but I was sitting in this meeting and just watching everyone brainstorm and discuss it, and I literally understood about 10% of what they're saying, and I just looked and been like, this is cool.
Yeah.
But I got really, like, an amazing team just doing those amazing things. Yeah, it was a good moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's yours?
I don't know, I knew this was coming, so I was trying to think.
Quite a broad question.
It's a very broad question. I think when I got planning permission for the 2 homes in Watford.
I saw the photo in your office.
Yeah,
Cool.
when I was like, this hand drawn.
Is it?
Yeah. When I was like 18.
Really?
That was very, very cool.
Hmm.
Because that was like, you're 18 years old, I sent out letters a few months ago, somehow I've done something.
And it was in someone's garden.
Yeah. And just
Oh.
like, bang, I've gone from the best thing I've ever done, I've made like $1,000 and I just made hundreds of thousands in like one decision on a piece of paper. Like it was pretty unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah. Those kind of moments is like, it's unlocking that you could do something.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the art possible and all that kind of stuff.
I think the other best moment was when, I don't know, there's been quite a few. Everything like compounds and then you look at the last, like you have your best moments and like they all just overtake each other because this next best one sort of supersedes
Yeah. For me,
this one.
another one is like, so I was in, before I started my last business, I was in management consultancy, doing service design, which is like holistic kind of systems thinking, and a lot of the stuff I did was, like one of the projects I worked on was basically redesigning the immigration and asylum tribunal court system. And we did some amazing impactful stuff of changing processes and helping people's lives, and that was like really rewarding. But I've always wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And taking the leap to do my own business at Play-to-Way, and then seeing it go from like an idea after making a burger and a barbecue to 6 months later doing £1 million in revenue and all these meal kits going around the whole of like the UK from like 5 people in a team in Watford. Like it just shows how much, like if you actually you can get, it just shows that you can do something from an idea and actually get it to work.
Exactly.
Right? And then get it to grow. And then that was the first point I realised, oh shit, okay, I'm good at this, I can do this. And then doing that again for Martee's 3 years later, just adds more confidence to that.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can do that. So,
So,
Should we check we're still recording?
oh yeah.
don't want to do the third one.
So Brandon's like never worked for anyone except himself.
Yeah.
You've worked for someone before you started your own company.
Yes.
Can you like compare the positives and negatives and like,
What did you do?
What did I do before?
Yeah.
So I started doing UX design for Sky.
Really?
Yeah, so I was a UX designer
I didn't know that.
up in Leeds. That's what kind of straight out of uni. So I did that
Wow.
for 2 years.
What did you study at uni?
Digital marketing. No, sorry, digital media. So I did everything from graphic design, did a bit of computer science to communications. And my final year project was essentially, you could shape your own final year project, and I basically did a whole UX design project that turned into an app, basically. So I always wanted to do that.
Spent too much time on Figma then.
Figma didn't exist back then,
Really?
so it was Sketch.
Mm.
Yeah, so Figma literally didn't exist. And my course didn't know what UX design was. It only started in like America and Silicon Valley. But this was 2012.
Okay.
So I kind of went in, came back after summer, the second year, was like, I wanted to do UX design, it was my final project, and I researched it, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. And that's how I got that's the final year project. And then Sky came to headhunt some people to join their team they were building up in Leeds. And yeah, blagged it and got the job, and then worked there for 2.5 years, basically learning UX design pretty much, because I've never done it in a commercial setting. Then left, moved down to London, did it for a few startups, then moved into management consultancy and morphed from a UX designer, which is more kind of detailed wireframes, UI, all that kind of stuff, to a service designer, which is more looking at things from a higher level, like a lot of digital transformation projects, front end, back end, front of stage, backstage, what happens internally and externally, a lot of research to understand kind of like as is process, and then what a future process would be. So like the immigration asylum one I talked about is we want to understand what is the process from someone that's appealing the Home Office decision from the tribunal courts, when that goes in, then having a court hearing to see if they can stay in the UK.
Yeah.
And before that was a paper-based process. You would send a letter and you wouldn't hear back for 16 weeks. And we basically added a digital application, a digital layer where there's like an online hearing where the Home Office had to review the decision after 2 weeks.
And that was a contract through who?
And the Engine Group. Which
How did they win that? Because they've just
so they
worked on them for years.
They were working as part of HMCTS's digital reform program, and we were part of the technology team on that program.
That's good.
So that was through Engine, working for HMCTS. So I was a part on an agile software delivery team as a service designer, where I went and did loads of research to understand the as-is process, and then helped inform what that roadmap was to build out the new digital service.
Yeah.
So that was like working within a team. I didn't necessarily have a boss, but I was working for someone else. Very impactful, the work we were doing. But yeah, you could close your laptop at 6 o'clock and gone, it's fine. Whereas this doesn't, as you know, it doesn't stop, right? When it's good, it's amazing. When it's not, it's tough.
I couldn't work, so it's not necessarily like, it's firstly having control of what you do, but I feel like whatever job I would have, I would have control of what I do, and that's what I like for all of our people on our team. Like, if you're good at your job, you can, if you want to work from home, work from home. If you want the day off, take the day off. If you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. Like, you don't need to be told what to do.
100%.
So that's for everyone. But I told you we got offered an acquisition the other day, or last week, whenever it was, and they said we'd like you to work in a company in a senior position. The way that I'd see that is like, he was trying to sell it like, oh, you'll get a great pension, you'll get a great salary, like all of this sort of stuff. I wouldn't be motivated. It's a company that has hundreds of millions in the bank, like ready to spend.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have it in the bank, but they offered to buy us, and so they have a little bit of money to be able to play with. You could say tens of millions they have in the bank ready to spend on innovation.
Yeah.
So if I was in that position in that company, like, it would be great. I'd basically have a VC fund a business with 20, 30, 40 million in the bank to play with. It wouldn't motivate me though. I need like a target on the back of my head that if I mess up, I'm done. As opposed to being, if I was to work for a company in a chief exec position, and if I was to spend 5 million quid on an idea and it didn't work, I'd be like, oh, alright, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas I need the pressure to go, you need to make this work.
I think there's both. I think there's the pressure of making it work and everything's on you. But
it's not necessarily pressure, it's more just like, it gives me more of a reason to make it work.
it's the purpose.
Yeah, purpose. Like, if I'm doing it for someone else's, like, it just doesn't motivate. If I'm doing it for a bunch of shareholders that's a publicly owned company, like, it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
At this stage.
Yeah.
Different story if I'm to build, my challenge is to build Sirac planned, or whatever you want to call it, from the ground up to a really, really successful business. Not necessarily like go into a business that's been established for 20 years and then increase its profits by X%. It doesn't get me going at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for me, I came from that world and then went into entrepreneurship and doing it now. I could never see myself going back. I think the flexibility of being able to do what you want, but then it's also the purpose of it's your own thing, you're building something from scratch, you'll be able to solve the problems in the way you want to solve, you don't have to answer to anyone, etc. etc. Obviously it's slightly different for us because we've got investors, but
no, but still your days are dictated and the decisions you make, and no one else 100%. Sort of knows the level of detail about the business that you do.
100%, and we can take it in the different ways we want to do. We can make the key decisions of what we want to do, but ultimately I think it's having the purpose of that we can go and have a massive impact and make a business that's going to make a lot of money commercially to grow, rather than, like you said, doing it for someone else or a bigger organisation.
Exactly. The hardest thing, so like you're 7 now, it was not long ago that we were at 7. It's, in order for you to grow from like 7 to 14 is exactly the same as us growing pretty much from 50 to 100. Like, all you're doing is doubling it, and the hardest point, if I'm to like reflect back, the hardest point was to get to 7 and then to go from 7 to 14. We've gone from 26 to 51 in 6 months, and really it hasn't been hard at all. It was way harder going from 7 to 15, because when you get to a team of like 5, 6, 7, it's very hard to find very good people who are very much on board. So and if you lose 2 people, it's like shit. You've just lost a third of your workforce. You're down to 5. Recruitment costs are very expensive for that sort of.
The team is everything, right? So you have an idea, you have the execution. I'm not a data scientist, right? But I've got these amazing data scientists and techies to build this team up. And finding the right people and convincing them to come on the journey at that early stage, and taking the leap of faith.
It's very hard.
Very, very hard. But then I also think, even at the same point, you've got to get the engine started, right? We've got an amazing bit of technology. We've done our own stores, and now it's game on to do it for all these different clients as well, and get them to pay us. Like yesterday was a big moment. Coming back and getting that paid contract, take it to the next step. And I think, I don't know, at 7, if you had clients paying you at that point, I don't know.
I mean, our first 10 hires were all sales, so it was just people straight away. We had a product at that point, so I used an agency to build Sirac Tech and then launch it. And then the agency stepped away.
Okay.
Had one person as a freelancer, just keeping it maintained.
And then you were just selling it, and that's when the engine starts, right?
Exactly.
And then you get the revenue, and then you can double down on the sales people to bring them more sales and to grow that.
And that's how we've done it. And then we only internalised tech, so Julio came on board in Jan 2023, Jan last year.
Okay.
So
because
it's internal
it's
tech.
very expensive, right? To then evolve the product, grow it, do the product offering, etc.
So we've got like 5 minutes left. Do you have any questions for us?
Oh, didn't know I was going to have a few last questions. How do you see it? Because I have a co-founder, and she's amazing, and we work so well. We think very differently. We think differently, but we always come to a decisive decision on something, and then whether it's going her way or my way on that decision, we both execute it as much as we can to the business. And we share the successes and the stuff that's hard. We've both got each other's back. How is it with you not having a co-founder, and then I suppose it's you being a single founder? How do you find that?
I prefer it. I think I'd struggle if I had a co-founder.
Okay.
Nothing. There's nothing really is like that difficult, I guess. Like Georgina sees me operate daily. We have a very, very good team, and like whether it's sales or tech, everyone gets their stuff done. And we will complement each other very well.
And if you need a second opinion, you've got like Julio and people you trust who can help you out there.
Yeah, exactly. What are you saying from a support perspective?
I think support and
I think it's different now because we're a fully operating business that has functions and management in place.
yeah,
Whereas when it was like
yeah,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, and I don't know, like when you asked me before what's the best memory, I can remember the worst memories. Like we were meant to have before this we were meant to have another new office, and we were at max capacity at our old office, and we needed to move out. It fell through. I thought the world crashed. Like it was the most awful day. I was in the worst mood. Another thing, like 6 months into running the business, I brought on a sales director who I thought would help me run the company. Like very, very well, sort of like had a lot of stripes on his shoulder type thing. He left after 6 months, and I was like, oh shit, like what the hell am I going to do now? Like that was another awful moment.
yeah,
I had a sales manager type person who he basically had to be let go because of misconduct, but when he left I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do now? But it was black and white why he left. So
yeah.
I had like a few sort of bad moments. Nothing's been catastrophic, but yeah, I guess that's where your sort of like family steps in. Nothing major.
Well, yeah, like you said, now you've got amazing structure, and amazing team around you. I suppose, yeah, right, which is more in the early days, you know.
Yeah,
when it's like, I suppose from starting,
I think
to then getting the team.
I think it cycles back round. Like it drives me having it on me because I know that it's my fault.
Yeah.
So, like, and I need that.
Nice.
Yeah. If as a leader, I think it's very important to be like super accountable for what you do.
100%.
Because
Yeah.
if you can't be, so Georgina, you asked me before what's my favourite moment. What's your favourite moment or what would you say is the biggest moment
For you?
for me or you since you've started?
I don't know. For me, it's moving out of, because I was in sales before this role. It's moving from sales to this role.
Sales here?
Yeah.
Okay.
But for you, I don't know. There's been loads of things, and
It's not even like we signed the biggest data deal in probably the last 15 years in the UK
yeah,
a few months ago.
yeah,
Passing testing was great. I signed a massive contract. Like it's small stuff. Like I signed the biggest contract that this company's ever signed. I landed in Marbella. We were waiting for the car. I was sitting on the top floor of a car park with my legs crossed. We just bought beers from the corner shop, and my friends were taking the piss out of me because like I was just sitting in a car park with my legs crossed, with my laptop on my lap on hotspot, signing the biggest contract we've ever done. So I love like the entrepreneurial life of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, I don't know, even like coming into the office when I'm not going to mention the name, but we had a massive meeting a month ago or so, and I went out the night before. I was like awfully hungover. I absolutely aced the meeting, which is like part of being young.
Yeah.
Just sending it hard.
You won't be able to do that when you get to 30.
I'll try.
I'll tell you that. So is the majority of your job now basically sales? Leading the big contracts? Yeah.
No, I'd say...
And recruitment?
No, I don't really do much. Georgina, do you want to ask that question for me? What do I do?
You spend a lot of time with the tech team.
Yeah, I probably spend 60% of the time in tech,
Yeah.
if not more.
You do a lot of product stuff, but we've just hired a head of product, so that'll move on, and you'll probably step more into sales after that, won't you?
Yeah, I do like the big sales stuff. So I'm working on like 3-4 deals.
Yeah.
Like I told you before.
Yeah.
But it's like big partnership stuff.
Have you sourced them yourself? Or was that
Georgina helps me with that.
Okay.
But it's also relationships that I've been working on for years.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of both.
Your days are very varied.
Very, very varied.
Which is good.
Yeah, I don't really do much recruitment anymore. I've got a very sort of strict rule that I have to interview people. I have to meet them before they get a job offer.
Speaking of, you've got an interview in 3 minutes.
Do I?
Yeah.
I've got to get back for a meeting as well.
I thought it was 12:15.
Jeremy said 12.
Oh shit, it's 12.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Good.
Thanks
Covered a lot. Sorry for the
podcast.
the break in the middle to sort the fire alarm out.
Glad it was on fire.
Yeah, I hope everything's okay.
It was good.